Hello everybody, welcome back to From Rhythm to Algorithm. We continue on with our derivation. What is sensorality? Right? Hello everybody. Everybody limits everything. Right? The mass that is in the universe, that is sentient, that is making willful choices, that is running around making YouTube videos like me, well, that's less than the total amount of mass that exists. There's more mass that is not sentient than is sentient. Again, everything is connected, but nothing is touching. And so we're still working on this first principle, and it never stops. Like I said, this process just continues to iterate. But a body is a thing. And so again, we can see we're just like reducing the logic. Everybody limits everything. A body is a thing. So we start out with this general kind of theorem and we derive down. Sooner or later, we're going to hit what is sensorality in this undeniable linguistic form. Linguistics meaning the letters. A limit sets. Setting limits. Sensorality with a C is set. All right, and that's just a statement of the conservation of mass. Sensorality is set. There's a set amount of mass that exists in the universe. Some of it is sentient, some of it is not. More of it is not sentient than is. Set is closed. Open is variable. So now once again, we can restate the fundamental theorem of mathematics, right? And again, thematics. Theme is good. Ma, a good. Theme, right? Ma, like math, literally means good. He looked around and said, and it was good. Right? Math is good. And so the theme of language, all of language is good, right? Bad words don't really exist. Language is consistent, and you have to use it like out of context to say something negative. Right? That's why it's good vibes only. So that was a big one. Oh no, we didn't even get to the statement of the theorem. But fundamental theorem of mathematics. The opposite of a variable is a set. Right? If you're set, you can't change. If you're a variable, you change. Right? Variation changes. If it is set, it is not variable. Sensorality is variality. Sensorality introduces. Introduction, induction. Sensorality adores. Adore, adorn. Ornamentality adorns. Massive is monumental. So monumental is another good example of something. Literally, is in the middle of the word, but based on the pronunciation, you don't really hear that. So again, this discreteness aspect, words represent physical objects and physical things. And so words are discrete as well. Like clearly there's spaces in between them, but also in the pronunciation. And so, or you say monumental, but it spells out And what do you say when you don't know something? You say or you mumble. And so, yeah, something's going on there. An award is an accolade. The opposite of steady is shaky. Vibration shakes. Vibration is shakeality. Sensorality is cality. Is time in operation? I conjectured that, again, and it's hard for me to separate conjecture from intuition, because again, you can't break language. So all you're doing is making the result more specific. I could literally sit here and say it is what it is to anything. And it's true, it's logically consistent, it's accurate, all of the above. It's not specific enough to be meaningful, or it's not specific enough to be operative, to do something. And so we said, or again, the acknowledged difference between a series and a sequence in mathematics right now today, say it's an operation, right? It is time in operation. Time is a measurement of inefficiency. Right? You have Albert Einstein says, time is relative if you hang out with a girl or if you're listening to a lecture, meaning if you're enjoying, time flies when you're having fun. Again, all of these cliches already exist in public sentiment. And so I conjecture that that there's just different letters and different forms of words that are used for past tense and future because they're well defined. The future, everything that hasn't happened and we don't know. In the past, everything that has happened that is completely set, it will never change. And so that kind of stark difference has to be present in language. And logically, I think that's what the difference between series and sequence is. And then there's a more general differentiation saying, something like, again, sense, S-C-N-C-E, like in consequence, is not S-E-N-S-E. And so something about being set in the past, that's what I'm thinking is going on. But point being, is time an operation? It's a measurement of inefficiency. When things aren't working well, you start thinking about the time. Everybody's had this experience. You're doing something you don't want to do, and it might be an hour long. It's not an hour long, it's 4 sections of 15 minutes. But each of those 15-minute sections, and you'll naturally start dividing it by 2. But then it'll be like, oh, it's like 7.5. But you'll start categorizing, right? If I have to do 10 laps, well, I just have to do 1 lap, and then I'll worry about the one the next time. And so that's when you're thinking about time, is when you're not having fun. But it's an awareness of inefficiency. And then so, is time an operation? Is measurement an operation? Yes. If you're measuring something, you're operating, you're doing something to a physical system. You're interacting with it. And so time tracks inefficiency, and I'm still trying to we're building the logic, right? There's not much to explain because words have meaning. We just have to get the words in the right area, and we do that by having our concepts, our intuition in the right area. Nothing is complicated, everything is simple, all mathematical truths are inevitable. If I'm not here to say, whatever this proved it, the truth comes out in the end. And so time will tell. We have all these different cliches where everyone knows this intuition's real. But yeah, that's what I got there. And then I have efficacious, censorious, and I think spacious. Yeah. Sensorality relates experience to words. And that's what we're doing right now, is we're trying to put the words on the right experience. Words represent physical processes and physical objects, and it will be an undeniable reduction. Relation is connection. Sensorality relays. An ambassador is a conduit. Sensorality is conduitality. Right? Conduit, intuit. And people will say that, right? If you're intuiting something, meaning you have the intuition, you're trying to explain something, and you're using all of the wrong words to do so. And it doesn't really matter. Like when you're looking at people, for example, acquired savant syndrome. Well, let's say they'll bonk their head and now they have all this intuition. I recently watched one, probably within the past 2 months. You guys have my search history. But there was an episode on the telepathy tapes, which is, if you're not, it's just a podcast. But they have a person on there with acquired savant syndrome where they hit their head, and I can tell immediately. And a good example of difference is Christopher Langan versus somebody with acquired savant syndrome. They both have the right intuition. Christopher Langan is a lot more developed linguistically than all of these people that just hit their head, but to have access to the intuition and then to be able to describe what's going on, it is immediately and overwhelmingly apparent if they're on the right track. And so, but past being on the right track, all you're doing is refining your own vocabulary. And ontology is the words that we use to describe the physical systems as the species as a whole. And when we're still building up to it, but species isn't well defined. And so, I haven't made that abundantly clear. And if you haven't seen the different things we'll get there in a second. Probably not today. But there's just not that much more for me to say. But regardless, what I was saying is in the intuition of somebody like Christopher Langdon, where he has the raw intellect to be able to articulate it better than these other people. Again, unless you're doing what I'm doing, you have not had the real breakthroughs. It's just fact. It's demonstrable, right? I have so much derivation, I don't have anywhere to put it. Literally, it's causing me a tremendous amount of stress. And so, but nobody cares. The point being is, if you just bonk your head, I don't know why. Anybody can learn anything, right? You don't need a drug experience, you don't need a religious experience. The genuine biggest thing for people that don't have is they've never made decisions for themselves. So they never actually realize they're not thinking, they're not making choice. Thinking is an active process. And so it's very clear again, but once you have the right intuition, all you're doing is refining your own vocabulary. Discreteness allows for completeness. Kind of got at that in one of these other episodes. But again, this is a complete notebook, right? It's an independent object. It's complete. It's a thing, and right, I'm a thing holding this thing. And so, because things are discrete, and that discreteness comes from, again, the stability. You have an energy. I'm not going to say the F word, meaning field. But you have energy, there's no form yet, so you don't have points in space, and then it condenses, it's stabilized. E into mc related by the speed of light squared, right? And so that is what happens. That's how discreteness is there. And then completeness is a word that represents things that are self-contained. And there, again, there's always some interaction with the environment. There are no closed systems. Every black body radiates, but you have this stabilization of energy into mass, creating discreteness, and then you have inherent completeness, which is local because of that. Proof is undeniable. Again, all of these different steps, of these logical intuitions, we were always sitting there like, yeah, this is cool. Still not the big step for sensorality. It'll be an undeniable linguistical iteration of the letters. Sensorality is deniability, right? Liability, the ability to lie. Deniability, the ability to deny. Sensorality is deniability, the ability to deny. Sensorality is denial. Sensorality is deniability. And we just keep building it up, thinking we're going to have this overarching theorem, we're going to drive down, it's going to axiomatize sensorality, which again, the uniqueness is the syllability, the order and sequence of syllables. And it'll pair up to two other words. Hopefully that happens sometime when I'm alive. But no guarantees. Finally, remediality is average, right? If you're remedial, it's average. Sensorality is remedial, right? Speciality is special, sensorality is average, remedial. And so again, we're just still building up our big ideas, speciality, which is already axiomatized, and now we're working on sensorality, and there's two forms, inanimate versus animate, and we're just trying to find the stabilizing theorem, which I know science team has, but it's all illegal, and then I try to send them my research, and then they damage it and send it back, which I still can't emphasize how profoundly big of a deal that really is. And so continue to break the law. You guys continue to commit crimes at a level that's just undeniable. You've ruined my ability to have my health, my ability to have a family, the ability to eat, to sleep, to sustain life to any capacity or any quality of life. It is all illegal. No one cares. I'm documenting absolutely as much as I possibly can. Thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next one.